Here's the plan for the evening. When we get in there, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have the sensitives do their individual walkthroughs. Okay. There's a fourth floor that's only accessible via access. So Stacy will have to take you up individually up to the fourth floor. So basically, while one person goes up to the fourth floor impression, the other two will help with setting things up. Once they come back down, then the other person will go up, and then the person who was on the fourth floor then start doing the third floor and the third floor mezzanine, which is just open. Okay? So then we'll do that, and then once you're done with that, then we'll meet back and help put out whatever equipment needs to be set up. Okay? The rest of us, we need to start doing baseline readings as soon as we get in. So there's 4 main areas in which we're going to want to set up cameras. And one of the areas of third floor mezzanine, we're going to need probably 3 cameras to cover it all based on how it's laid out. So my plan right now is 4 groups, but that might get switched to 2 groups. So once we figure out how the sound bounces, because it is, if anyone's been on the 3rd floor, it is kind of like a maze, and sound can probably bounce in very interesting ways. And so we need to be cognizant of that and make sure that we're not contaminating ourselves. I investigate the paranormal because it's a fringe science. It's a science that is not recognized by mainstream science, and there's a lot to do. There's a lot that can be found out utilizing some tools that were made for other industries. And the main reason why I do it is to try and find proof that the paranormal actually exists. I like actually that it isn't right now a mainstream science, and the reason is if it was a mainstream science, there would be PhDs who are doing this, and not just the average person would be able to. And for that reason, it's a good thing that mainstream science is not looking into this. But obviously, that's where we want to go with this, to actually get some plausible evidence of the paranormal utilizing the equipment that we have available to us.
I think that interest in the paranormal comes in waves. There's always a core group of people who are really interested in it. You know, these are the people who go to conventions, who are in paranormal groups, who do the reading, the research. But then there's sort of the fair weather fans who come and go, depending on whatever is popular in the media at the time.
When Ghost Hunters started in 2005, and the show became popular, the paranormal became much more to the forefront of our society. It was much more acceptable to talk about it, to have investigations done in your home or business. It was even, I believe, at a time at least, considered to be trendy to do so.
So for instance, in the 1990s, the X-Files was very popular. So we had all kinds of discussion about UFOs and alien abductions, Roswell. Now that sort of has been toned down. And the ghost thing has become really popular, starting with Ghost Adventures in 2004. And the sheer number of ghost investigation teams has grown exponentially since then.
So now with the advent of other investigation type shows or paranormal type shows that have come up from the populator that Ghost Hunters has created. So I do think that's why the main reason actually for the increase in paranormal enthusiasm in society today.
It's almost like a family away from another family, you know. Everybody looks out after each other. We're open to suggestions. We give suggestions, and I've really learned a lot. I've learned more than I ever thought I would have learned by just watching the TV shows. And there's way more. There's way more out there by actually doing the investigations than watching the shows.
I think what motivates me the most about studying folklore and ghost stories is really the adventure of it. It's the act of discovery, the sort of the mystery. You know, you're uncovering mysteries of the past. And I believe that almost every ghost story has something to say about either our culture in a larger sense or the history of the area. It tells us something about our fears, our desires, our anxieties.
What got me interested in the paranormal is, you know, I've had my own personal life experiences, things that you just can't seem to explain, and just kind of push those in the back of your mind because you just, you know, you grew up with people saying there's a logical explanation for everything. But, you know, I don't think that's always true.
You might go through hours upon hours of evidence and never find a thing. And what's the thrill in that? There's really not a lot, but you do find that one piece of evidence, and it's just, your mind is blown away, and everything that you believe in or didn't believe in at that point is completely different.
You know, there's some shows out there that you watch when it relates to paranormal activity where, you know, they hear a noise and right away the place is haunted. You know, well, I don't want to assume the place is haunted. I want to go look and see if there's any other possible source where this noise could be coming from. Whether it's somebody came unexpectedly and slammed their car door, or maybe the window's not closed tight and it's rattling with the wind. You know, sometimes you just don't know. And, you know, sometimes you have to investigate more before you jump right to the fact that it's unexplained.
You know, there's things that have happened where I would say, okay, well, I cannot explain that. You know, I'm a skeptic, but I still cannot explain what that is. So it's got to be something paranormal because I've stripped it of everything that's possible, and what I'm left with is paranormal.
One of the consistent claims is that for about 40 years, since a prominent individual's death, they have had problems with the elevators. Now, elevators, as a default, need to go to the first floor or the ground floor if they haven't been called. And this is just a standard setup for elevators. Now, about 40 years ago, after a prominent individual's death who was associated with this location, the staff here started to notice that the elevators, when they weren't called, instead of reporting to the first floor, would report here to the third floor or even to the fourth floor on occasion where that person's offices were located.
It was always incredibly cold, no matter what the weather was, outside or even in this general area of the third floor. It would be freezing cold in there all the time.
Other consistent claim, which many people, from visitors to staff, have reported, is that when they're walking around on the third floor or the third floor mezzanine, they will feel this mass of cold air pass through them. So that's the second consistent claim. The third consistent claim comes from the third floor mezzanine, and an apparition has been seen that runs through the hallway there on the third floor mezzanine. You know, I think we're testing those three in particular.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you know, our main goal is to try and communicate with Mr. Borhage because that's really the main claims here. But the other things that you guys have picked up, we also can work with as well while we're here. Due to the period intelligence that we have here with him, and apparently many other spirits, we could have a very active investigation tonight. So what we need to do is keep very level heads. You know, when we hear something, see something, feel something, always go to default about trying to explain it first, but make other people aware of it so we can try and document it as it happens.
It's not necessarily a search for the truth with a capital T. I know that's why a lot of people get involved in the subject to sort of uncover the truth or falsehood of ghosts. That aspect of it doesn't really concern me very much, because I think that even if these stories are fictitious, or even if ghost stories are simply living in the realm of our imagination, I think they have a lot to say about all of those different aspects of human experience.
I don't have any cool stories of living in a haunted house when I was a kid or when I visited my grandma. I just, every time Halloween came around and spooky shows came on, it always piqued my interest. And I remember distinctly when I was in 3rd grade, I went to the library and checked out the only 3 ghost books that they had and took them home so I could read them. So it's always been an interest of mine. And as I've gotten older, it would kind of come and go with Halloween. I would be very interested in Halloween. Then other things would happen and I would go into the background again.
If that's you trying to communicate with us, we can't hear you loud enough with our own ears. So if you speak loud, really loud, maybe try yelling, we might be able to hear you. Alright, if that's you, you're gonna have to do much better than that. Move something, make a scratch on the wall, yell, something that's gonna let us know that it's really you trying to communicate with us.
Why would anybody come sit in a room like this? This is like a dungeon. Did you sit down here waiting to perform?
This is sort of a new way of looking at it. There have always been people who would consider themselves to be paranormal investigators, but in the past it was more of specialists, more highly trained individuals.
You know, I have so many questions, so few answers, and when I was watching these TV shows of people investigating and it started getting more popular, well, it started presenting doors to me that I never really knew were there to begin with because they were so underground or so hidden. And now it's because it's more acceptable to do such a thing. You learn more about it and you find out that there are groups out there that do this. And it's like, you mean I can do this?
Being a police officer has given me experience to look at things from multiple angles, from angles that other people might not look at it. It also teaches you observation skills, or fine-tunes good observation skills you have already. So I might observe things that most people not in law enforcement field might not notice. So whereas they might jump to say something's unexplained, I might pick up on the explanation for what's going on.
We investigate the paranormal to try to find answers. Really that's what it boils down to. What is this? What is going on here? Are these spirits? Is this another dimension? Is this hallucination? What is going on here? And what are people experiencing? And that's really what we're trying to do, is try to find answers.
And also, part of it is the thrill of being scared, coming to a new place, being somewhere where you're not quite sure that you should be, maybe seeing something strange on your photographs when you develop them. All of those things, I think, are what keep me coming back, and certainly what keep a lot of people coming back to this subject.
All right, so we're here at Paradise Theater in West Dallas, Wisconsin. And this here's the main floor of the theater. It's 39,000 square feet. And we have a couple reports of activity here. There's a man that has been seen in this seat here, and he just appears to be enjoying the movies. And then across the aisle, across this thing in the short set of seats over there, there's another gentleman that is, again, just watching the movies but doesn't want to be bothered by anyone. From here, we're going to head upstairs to the balcony. We had a projectionist who worked here from the late 80s to the early 90s, and he had several experiences in this area. He was a projectionist, so the projection room is back up here. He would come down and watch the movie in between reel changes. And he, one time, saw a gentleman at the far right corner, and then instead of going down towards the exit, he actually came up the next aisle and disappeared. And at the time, Paul thought that there was someone up here that snuck up here to watch the movie, but when he disappeared halfway up this aisle, he realized something else was going on. And he saw two heads in the very front row of the balcony that he could see against the screen, the light from the screen of the movie. And he was like, what the heck, how did someone get up here? They shouldn't be up here. And he went down to investigate, and when he got there, he actually realized that the seats that he saw heads in weren't even there. They actually had been unbolted because the bolts were faulty. So there actually weren't even any seats there.
I think attitude is the most important thing when you're starting out. I think that you should take the work and the research seriously, but not necessarily take yourself seriously. Now you have to understand, I mean, we're dealing with something like the paranormal. It's very much an emotionally driven subject.
So it's important when you do fill out an application to be with the group is to meet with them and find out how they do the investigation. You know, if they just say, oh, we sneak into cemeteries and we run around and do this and that, or if they say they do a scientific approach or they use dowsing rods, you have to say, is this what I want to do? And that's what I liked about PIM, is that they do everything scientific. And as a skeptic, that's how I want to do it, is completely scientific. So that way I'm not, you know, basically bullshitting myself to believing stuff.
So it's important to approach the subject with an open mind and a critical mind, but also realize that that not everyone is going to take what you're writing about seriously. Not everyone is going to be interested in it. But for those who are, you know, I think approaching it with a measured, dynamic approach, an approach where you cover all the angles and you try to get as much information as you can, while still understanding, you know, that these are stories people tell. They may not always be accurate. People might be working off of old memories, embellishments, you know, that kind of thing. So always keep that in mind.
Well, the first thing that I look for is a passion for the paranormal. With the shows that are out there nowadays, a lot of people see them and like, hey, I can do that, and they, you know, just kind of fall into it. I think that'd be a cool thing to do. But it's something that I want someone that I think is going to have a marathon look aspect about what they're going to be doing as a paranormal investigator. Not someone who just wants to get a quick fix of adrenaline junkie, he wants to get spooked or whatever. I'm looking for someone who actually is going to have the same mindset as I am, and that is they're not going to get overwhelmed by being in a haunted location, and they're going to be able to focus on what my group's goals are when they're doing an investigation.
Taking an event that has occurred and taking every angle possible as to how that event might have happened or what could have caused that event to happen. And if you can strip away every possible explanation for that, then maybe you have something paranormal. And that's what I like about this group, is we get together as a group every month and we go over our evidence as a group, and if there's any doubt, we throw it out. So that way there's, you know, if one person says, oh, I don't like that because I think it could be this, well then, you know, there's a million other people out there that are going to probably think the same thing, so we can't publish that as evidence. But as a group, if we can say, hey, this is what happened, these are the circumstances, we tested it, we put every meter possible on it, and we have no other explanation for it, you know, the only people that can argue is somebody who doesn't have the knowledge or the experience to know that that's what really happened.
It's so coming from outside the street. I can hear everything outside this window. But it's like a little,
Looked like it was as if a car passed and quick light flashed right here.
So make sure it's not this, because this red light blinks, so I just want to make sure it wasn't that.
it's not this. Okay, here comes the car.
No, that nothing.
It was right after she asked about the heater. It was like a.
I heard a vibration type sound.
Yeah, that's kind of like a.
It may have been outside.
We're gonna be quiet for 5 minutes. Tell us whatever you gotta tell us. We're just gonna listen. We're not gonna talk anymore.